The French naval group at the Euronaval 2022 Naval Exhibition showed a mock-up of the new nuclear-powered aircraft carrier Porte Avions Nouvelle Generation, abbreviated PANG. In this video, we'll try to understand what caused France to take this step and to consider all the hidden springs of this decision. After all, the creation of such modern and super expensive weapons is always not a concern for the security of their country, but also politics. And it's often political considerations that prevail over security considerations. What about this time? Let's see. France already has one aircraft carrier in service and a nuclear propulsion system. Recall that only the United States has aircraft carriers of this type. Neither Britain, Italy, India, nor South Korea has such aircraft carriers. Even China does not have them. And Russia, with its antediluvian aircraft carrier Admiral Kuznetsov, launched back in 1985, having as the engine 12 steam boilers, is stuck firmly in the past century. The Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier has the displacement of 42,000 tons. Up to 40 aircraft can be based aboard the ship. The basis of its air group is a Dassault Rafale fighter. The machine is interesting, iconic for Europe, and in general is currently the best European fighter of the fourth generation. Close in spirit, British Eurofighter Typhoon, in contrast to the Rafale, just beginning to receive modern radar with an active phased array antenna. The aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle was launched in 1996 and commissioned in 2000. You could say that's an average age for an aircraft carrier, but by the mid-30s, it'll certainly be obsolete. Why are we talking about the mid-30s? Because all the ambitious European, American, and Japanese programs to develop these sixth-generation fighters should be finished by then. The American nuclear submarines of the new generation Columbia should go on combat patrol, and the program to achieve the full operational capability of the new American strategic missile GBSD will end in 2036. All in all, another global showdown is planned for the planet in the mid to late 2030s. Recall that in 1939, World War II began, and history develops in cycles. So the French are right in believing that their Charles de Gaulle must be replaced by the mid-2030s. There's been talk about replacing it for a long time, but in 2020, the current French leader, Emmanuel Macron, decided to go from words to deeds. During his speech at the headquarters of the French Nuclear Industrial Corporation, Framatome in Le Creusot, he said, "As you know, Charles de Gaulle will end his service in 2038. That's why I've decided that the future aircraft carrier that our country and our Navy will be armed with will be nuclear, like the Charles de Gaulle. Your plant at Le Creusot, which throughout its long history has produced the equipment needed for our fleet, will produce, among other things, several of the major parts of the nuclear reactor of the future aircraft carrier, forging and machining them right here. With this choice, we reaffirm France's desire to maintain its strategic independence." And so at Euronaval 2022, the French showed what they think their aircraft carrier of the future should look like. It's immediately clear that France does not want to build Charles de Gaulle No. 2, neither, however, does the conditional counterpart of the new British aircraft carrier of the Queen Elizabeth type, which is deprived, as you know, of the launch catapult. Therefore, it uses short takeoff and vertical landing fighter F-35B, which has a rather limited combat range in comparison with the full-fledged carrier F-35C, 833 kilometers against 1,140 kilometers. The same picture with the combat load, 6,800 kilograms versus 8,160 kilograms. In contrast to the British, French ship must get 3 electromagnetic launch catapults type EMALS and air finishers AAG. All is on the newest American aircraft carrier Gerald Ford. However, the Porte Avions Nouvelle Generation will be smaller than its overseas counterpart. If the total displacement of the American is 100,000 tons, then the French Navy aircraft carrier will have 75,000 tons. But this is almost twice as much as that of the current Charles de Gaulle. The ship's expected to be 300 meters long and 30 meters wide. The power plant is to be based on 2 nuclear reactors of K-22 type with a thermal capacity of 220 megawatts each. The aircraft carrier will have a full speed of about 27 knots. The crew will consist of 2,000 people. The ship will get 1 large superstructure and a Thales Seafire radar system with 4 fixed AFARs on the superstructure. The ship will be able to use ASTER anti-aircraft missiles and several Thales-Nexter rapid-fire 40mm artillery systems to defend against air attacks. As for the air groups, its basis, as it could be assumed, will be represented by a new generation fighter created within the framework of the Future Combat Air System program. If we believe the mock-up presented at Le Bourget in 2019, which obviously represents only the general vision of aircraft manufacturers of the current situation, it's a rather large, optionally piloted machine which will be able to carry a very wide range of weapons and will receive unmanned wingmen. A load of 32 such vehicles can be based on the prospective ship. In addition to fighters, the aircraft carrier will be able to carry several Northrop Grumman E-2D advanced HAWKEYE long-range radar detection and control aircraft, helicopters, and UAVs. They'll be used with the help of 2 large elevators. The ship wants to be operational in 2038. And one more very interesting point, the program director of the French aircraft carrier project, Philippe, the last name is not disclosed by the rules of the French Armed Forces, said that some design decisions were made to ensure the compatibility of French and American aircraft carriers. As Philippe stressed, France and the United States are literally the only 2 countries in the world operating nuclear-powered aircraft carriers with catapults and flamethrowers, so they must be compatible. I want to remind you that French Rafales have landed and taken off from U.S. aircraft carriers in the past. There are no French catapult manufacturers, so the Pang will have American-made electromagnetic catapults like the Gerald R. Ford-class aircraft carriers. Now let's talk about the hidden political springs of the decision to build a new aircraft carrier. Of course, the rearmament of the fleet is important and necessary, and due to the observed trend of increasing escalation in the world, including the European continent, it's not just necessary, but very necessary. But does France need such a nuclear aircraft carrier with a displacement of 75,000 tons? After all, according to modern classification, this would be a super aircraft carrier. It means that France will become not only the second country after the USA to have a nuclear aircraft carrier, but also the second country to have a super aircraft carrier. Can the country pull it off? In this regard, the most remarkable is the story of the new nuclear-powered submarine Suffren, the lead ship of the Barracuda type for the country's Navy. It was laid in 2007 and handed over to the Navy only in November 2020. The story with the second ship of the series, which was laid down in 2009, is more or less the same. Wouldn't it be more rational to build not one big aircraft carrier, but 2 small ones, so that one of the ships would always be in service while the other would be undergoing repairs and upgrades? And very suspiciously, Macron's loud statements about the creation of a French super aircraft carrier were synchronized with the presidential elections in France in April 2022. The French must have seen that the president was struggling to make France great again. After all, after former U.S. President Trump frightened his NATO allies that the U.S. might leave the alliance, European officials increasingly began to say that the European Union needs its army. And who will play the first fiddle in this army? Certainly France is the only nuclear power in the EU, after Britain withdrew from it. And France's new nuclear-powered aircraft carrier will significantly strengthen France's claim to European leadership. And this desire for France to become even more powerful is welcome. The truth is simple. The stronger you are, the more weight you carry in international affairs. The main thing is for the French aircraft carrier to become a symbol of excessive spending for one country. After all, France is not the USA, and the constant postponements and unfulfilled illusions about the revival of former greatness. Our channel promises to monitor this project of the French aircraft carrier, and in case of any significant events in it, we'll inform our viewers. And not to miss new interesting videos, we recommend you subscribe to our channel. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up. We do our best to create interesting content for you.